Well, the DOJ released the raw, unedited videos that prove that Epstein killed himself, and they closed the case, stating that there's no client list, no clients, no trafficking ring, no blackmail. You're all crazy. Everyone's crazy. Ghislaine is in prison for nothing, apparently, and there's nothing to see here, guys. Except that the unedited video they released had a minute of film cut out of it, mysteriously. Not to mention that it didn't even show Epstein's cell door. It didn't even have full view of the entrance to Epstein's wing of the jail. And at this point, it's also ridiculous that I can't even imagine that they would be so brazen, so incredibly dumb as to think that this is fooling anyone. In my opinion, it's the biggest and the sloppiest political cover-up in modern history. At least since 9/11, whoever did that cover-up. So, while it's still legal, we're going to talk about it. Welcome back to Cancel Ian Carroll.
Conspiracy theories are dangerous.
Information is the oxygen of a democracy.
It's so sick that we can't talk about it.
So, it's official. Epstein never happened. Ignore all the evidence. Ignore your own eyes. The government has investigated itself and determined that it didn't do anything wrong. It's patently absurd, I know. In case you're not personally acquainted with the Epstein case and the massive body of evidence surrounding it, you might be wondering, well, do we really have any proof? I mean, if they were never really able to put anyone in jail, and after all these years, Bondi's finding no evidence, then maybe it's like, no. No, nope. No, ma'am. Let's be super clear at the start here. There is so much evidence, and this was such a massive operation. There are loose ends and breadcrumbs literally all around the globe. This is the furthest thing from a closed case imaginable. But for whatever reason, Pam Bondi doesn't want to go ask any of the powerful people that are implicated. And I'll let you figure out for yourself why she might not want to do that. Now, the Trump Department of Justice's official position is that Epstein was just a lone pedophile that was not part of any network and was not blackmailing anyone at all. In fact, Trump can't even believe why anyone would still be talking about a worldwide child trafficking blackmail operation that we are pretty damn sure compromised a significant portion of our political and financial power structure right here in America. I mean, why would you even want to talk about such a crazy idea? Forget the fact that we had campaign promises and that we all want to release the files and that we were promised the files.
Could I just interrupt for 1 second?
I'll just interrupt for 1 second here.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking,
years.
We have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
Really?
That
This
is
creep?
unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up.
Wow. Just so much winning. I can't believe you guys even want to talk about Epstein while we're just having so much winning. Like, we literally already bombed Iran, didn't deport anyone, added trillions of dollars to the debt. We're giving it weapons back to Ukraine. And apparently, Bibi rules your country. So just shut up and win, guys. Just shut up and win. And to add insult to injury, the DOJ released footage from inside the jail, but not of Jeffrey Epstein's cell or not even of his cell wing. They released 10 hours of video that showed absolutely nothing, though they claimed it proved that he committed suicide despite the fact that you can't see Epstein's cell at all. The allegation has always been that he was likely just killed by a cellmate, not some outside assassin. It's not like they were bringing in ninjas through the front door to kill him. We can't even see his cell block. There's plenty of people inside of his cell block, not to mention that there's a minute of missing footage. Not to mention that I have no way to even verify that this tape is real and not AI at this point in 2025. So, yeah, so much winning. We're all really tired of winning. But anyways, the official stance of the government now is that Epstein had no client list and died by suicide, and they're apparently closing the case, which is some of the strongest evidence I've seen so far, actually, that Epstein did in fact have an extensive client list of very powerful people and that he did not kill himself. And now I can only assume, as can we all, that that client list is the people that are covering this all up. Really, this is worse than the Warren Commission. And the lie that they would have you believe here is every bit as dumb as the magic bullet theory. But of course, we know that the official story is an abject lie. Alex Aosta was the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida back in 2005 through 2009, all throughout Epstein's first arrest, trial, and conviction. And when pressed about the absolutely insane sweetheart house arrest sentence that he gave to Epstein, he said that, quote, Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. Whoever told him that was an extremely powerful person and clearly had an interest in Epstein not attracting attention and staying free to do business. Clearly, an arm of the intelligence that Epstein belongs to is in the American government, probably some black budget arm of the CIA or something like that. Hence, how someone in our own government could tell Aosta to back off. That is, unless Alex was taking orders from Israelis for some reason, because Israel is the other country clearly involved in this operation. This operation is the quintessential example of the deep, dark depths of the deep state. The merger of covert intelligence networks, organized crime, and the dirty bankers and businessmen that they work with. And it's been around in this form since intelligence agencies have existed. The deep state, honestly, is a lot like Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book of Contacts. It's not just one company or one government. There's no address where they have their HQ. The deep state is a network of relationships. It's the natural corruption that oozes out the other end of a society as complex and sick as ours is right now. The deep state includes people from all parts of the power structures of today's world. Bankers and blackmailers, politicians and celebrities, spies and criminals. They all got where they got by exchanging influence and power and money. Giving out, calling in favors. There's no single organization. There's no name. There's no address. This thing doesn't just work like the rest of the world around it. Think about how much funding the intelligence agencies in the U.S. receive. We don't really even know how many hundreds of billions of dollars flow through public and also secret programs, all designed to deceive, to spy on, to control, to subvert. When we're talking about a network like the one that Epstein worked for, you need to think a little differently about what you're seeing. Because what you're seeing is a multi-billion-dollar covert operation created by the most sophisticated spy agencies and criminal masterminds in the world. And they created it specifically to be deniable. The whole point of intel agency organizations and organized criminal enterprises is to be able to get away with something that you're not supposed to be doing. And the way you do that when you're trying to employ hundreds, even thousands of people in your criminal network is you create plausible deniability. You compartmentalize the organization so no one really knows what all the rest of the organization is doing. Most people don't know anything except their own job. Everyone is either bonded in loyalty by most often blood or race, maybe religion, or some form of shared blackmail or threat or fear. A lot of people don't realize that almost all the biggest corporations and executives seem to be in on the bigger picture here to a certain extent. Like, firstly, Peter Thiel, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos. They all have direct business relationships with the U.S. intelligence agencies and actively work with the CIA, NSA, and all the rest of them. Bankers like Jamie Dimon launder everyone's money around and make sure things are going according to whatever the banker's plans are. Larry Fink, I just did a whole video on him and BlackRock that you can watch. I'll link it down below. And Larry's not on here to imply that he was directly connected to Epstein, but rather to remind us all that these people swim very much in the same circles. Larry Fink is working very closely with a lot of these corporate executives and bankers and philanthropists that were also engaging in Epstein's corner of their neighborhood. The intel agencies have been fostering relationships with the biggest corporations since they were founded by corporate lawyers. In many ways, the intel agencies have actually worked for the corporations ever since World War II. And so why wouldn't the top executives and all the biggest corporations also cooperate with the agency? And most people never learn how these things work in school. So, little refresher. Intelligence networks are generally built by agents out of assets. And what I mean by that is that CIA agents are officially hired and trained by the CIA. The process is extensive, and they are federal agents. And a lot of the work they do in the field is actually recruiting assets. Assets are just people out in the world or the battlefield or wherever you're operating that can help you achieve your objective. So, if you're trying to infiltrate a terrorist organization, you're trying to make friends with someone inside and maybe convince them to turn and give you information and work for you. In a more domestic sense of the term, an asset might be the founder of a prominent tech company with big aspirations who likes them young, and you might ask him to start a charitable foundation that you could launder a bunch of money through on the side. Or maybe you're just Zuckerberg being asked by the CIA to give them access to your data. The moment he complies, he's an asset of whoever recruited him to do whatever work they asked him to do. And if you want to talk about the Jeffrey Epstein story, there are a number of people that appear to be assets, not agents. In fact, these deeper, higher level networks tend to be composed of mostly all assets instead of agents. So that way, there's basically no agency fingerprints on the thing at all. Remember, plausible deniability. If Sam Bankman-Fried messes up and gets too greedy and sloppy with whatever the hell he was up to behind the scenes, no intel agents here. It's just some wacky tech bro being a dumbass. The clearest example of an agent in the Epstein network is Ehud Barak, card-carrying former president of Israel, former head of Israeli military intelligence, one of the most decorated members of the Israeli military ever in its history. He's an agent. Even after he retired from officially working for Israeli intel services, he clearly will always work for them, and he clearly still does. Then you have Ghislaine Maxwell. Not exactly an agent as far as we know, just the daughter of one of the most prolific Israeli spies in history, Robert Maxwell. Here he is introducing Ghislaine to Queen Elizabeth II. I think Ghislaine has probably received some official espionage training and maybe a card-carrying member of Israeli intelligence, but if she is, that's hidden deep, deep in secrecy. So either way, she was an integral part of the network and is probably wondering why exactly she's locked up right now if Jeffrey Epstein didn't do anything and didn't have any help. But anyways, Leslie Wexner was the bankroll for much of the operation, as well as providing a convenient cover for Jeffrey Epstein, posing as a recruiter for Victoria's Secret. It's worth noting, he is still free, total billionaire, living in Ohio. No one's asked him any questions. Leslie Wexner is clearly aligned with Israel in everything he does. He is one of the world's richest and most dedicated Zionist philanthropists. The Wexner Heritage Foundation is massive. Bro has dedicated his entire life to Israel and Zionism, despite being from America and American. And he also bankrolled 2 separate sex trafficking rings, one via Jeffrey Epstein inside Victoria's Secret, and the other Mike Jeffries, CEO of Abercrombie & Fitch, whose operation got rolled up way more clean. But honestly, we don't really have any reason to believe we ever saw even a fraction of the extent of the Abercrombie boys trafficking network, so, case closed for now, I guess. But anyways, Epstein's network played to his preferences, which was young girls. And the critical feature that made it work was women working in it. Ghislaine Maxwell and her second-in-command, Sarah Kellen, as well as others like Leslie Groff, were likely first abused and groomed and then became the recruiters of young girls for Jeffrey and his clients or targets or friends or whatever you want to call them. Sarah Kellen knew all about the operation. She was integral to it, scheduling it all, managing who was where and when, appointments, massages, all the rest of it. Sarah was complicit, and she was never charged with anything, never even questioned under oath as far as I'm aware. She spent the last decade or so hiding in her $5.2 million New York penthouse with her NASCAR husband, except he is finally divorcing her and getting as far away from this story as possible. Good move, bro. If our government wanted to do anything about this case, they would obviously just investigate Sarah. Just ask her some questions. Figuring out who Epstein's targets were is a little more tricky because although the government confiscated boxes of tapes, DVDs, CDs, all from Epstein's properties, lots of files, lots of evidence, we never saw much of any of that evidence that they actually gathered. But going off of what's in the public domain from over the years, we've got a pretty damn good idea of a bunch of them. And most of them, by all indications, were willing participants. It's not like most of these dudes got tricked in the basic sense of the word. They wanted what Epstein was selling. Whether or not they realized they were going to be filmed while doing it and become enmeshed in this network, that's up for debate. But what starts as a little bit of blackmail can quickly become a long and prosperous, albeit demonic and perverted relationship. For example, Leon Black, paid Jeffrey Epstein a total of $170 million over the course of 5 years for help with his money, despite being one of the richest money managers in the world. And seeing as Jeffrey Epstein was a money launderer, I presume there's a reason why Leon Black was paying him instead of just a regular bank for whatever those services were. There have also been numerous allegations made against him by girls who were children at the time, and Leon was one of the founders of Apollo Global Management. And if you don't know who he is, Apollo is one of the biggest and most powerful and influential financial institutions in the world, and they have plenty of ties to intelligence and organized crime themselves. But if you didn't know who Leon Black was, don't worry. You're going to know about the next guy, Bill Clinton, the President of the United States of America. Epstein visited his White House 17 times on record, sometimes multiple times in one day. Plus, side note, real quick, the dude that originally let Jeffrey Epstein into the White House to see Bill Clinton, Mark Middleton, just Google how he died. It was obviously a suicide. It was just very creative. Mark was a creative guy. He, hung himself from a tree with an extension cord and then shot himself in the chest 2 times with a shotgun. Look into it. It's a little funny. But anyways, Bill was getting photographed like this in the airport. And at first, maybe it's not that weird, but then you think about it. President of the United States traveling with a dude that we know was trafficking underage girls. One of those girls is giving Bill a massage. The President of the United States, married man, he just goes to the airport with his buddy Jeffrey, and some random 17-year-old that has no relation to Jeffrey is just there to give massages. Is that a situation that checks out? Like, is there any way to explain that away? Like he just didn't know and wasn't getting other services in private settings? Right. When's the last time that you just went and hung out with your friends at the airport and then some random underage girl that no one had any relation to was just there to give you massages? That's totally normal. Well, an even more shocking photo was released of Prince Andrew, one of the most significant photographs possibly ever, in my opinion. This single photograph is enough to dispel Pam Bondi's absurd claim that Jeffrey Epstein didn't traffic or blackmail anyone. You don't even have to think that hard about it. The girl in the photo is Virginia Giuffre. At the time, she was Virginia Roberts. She was 17. In the background is Ghislaine Maxwell, who we know was involved in trafficking girls for and with Jeffrey Epstein, and she's in prison for it. Prince Andrew, a royal, has his hand around Virginia's waist in some random apartment all alone with Maxwell, and apparently Epstein, who took the photo. There is only one reason why this situation would ever happen. There are 0 reasons why some random girl from Palm Beach is in this room at all, let alone being touched like that by the Prince of England. Note that this photo was taken over in Europe. This is not in Florida, right? So in order for a situation like this to occur, so many other things had to happen. Epstein had to have all the relationships and connections to get to know Prince Andrew. He had to buy the plane he used to fly them all there. This photo is not capturing just a moment in the life of a rogue pedophile. Just from the information in this photo, you know that this is the result of years of work and a network of influence and money to get this kind of access for this kind of perversion. If Jeffrey Epstein just wanted to diddle kids on his own, he would never go and do it with the most prominent people in the world. Hello? Like, I'm just trying to keep a secret over here. Let me go find the Prince of England and do it with him and take photos of it. Right? And one of the critical nodes in this network that disappeared deep into the shadows was Peggy Segal. She was Jeffrey Epstein's access point to much of Hollywood and the celebrity class. She snuck Epstein into parties and got him on guest lists. And if you don't know who Peggy is, she's one of the most powerful publicists in Hollywood. And you wouldn't know it from this photo, but she's over 70 years old in that photo. She was famous for having a book of 30,000 of the most powerful contacts in the world that she would network and invite to parties and premieres and such, all in the Hollywood music industry. She organized Epstein's get out of jail party that got Prince Andrew in hot water and eventually led to him stepping away from his royal duties. Epstein was not just interested in celebrities, though. He was interested in scientists. Remember, Epstein worked for an intelligence network, an off-the-books, black-budget, secret network that probably originated somewhere deep in Israeli intelligence and then flourished through relationships with organized crime and elements of the CIA and U.S. intelligence services. But he was interested in everything intel agencies are interested in because he worked for them. And he would actively target and form relationships with technologists, researchers, scientists, and any other prominent intellectuals. He would throw parties and conferences on his island and invite all of them to come. And they came, so to speak. Not all of them came, but they all came. And that's how you wind up with funny memes about Stephen Hawking visiting Epstein Island, because he did. Lots of prominent scientists did. And a few even have sexual allegations against them. In this case, we're talking specifically about Marvin Minsky right there. But again, it was never tried in court. This obviously extended to relationships cultivated all throughout big tech. Hoffman went to the island. Gates went so far as to have Epstein help set up the Gates Foundation. He was helping Sergey with banking needs at JP Morgan and invested in Peter Thiel's venture capital firm, Valar Ventures. He was involved in setting up the Clinton Global Initiative as well. He specialized in philanthropy as money laundering, after all. He was also friends with at least one recent director of the CIA. We know that the former CIA director, Bill Burns, was also friends with Epstein and met with him numerous times, which he only admitted to after first trying and failing to cover it up. He said that it was to help him find a job after he had retired from being the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State, because that's totally the kind of person that needs help from Epstein to find a job. So Epstein set him up at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, which is a deep state think tank. And now I have questions. He was deeply enmeshed in our most prestigious educational institutions. Epstein had significant donor relationships with several of the top schools and maintained strong ties to many top board members, teachers, and executives at various universities. When this all came out, they first tried to pretend like it was all back before his first conviction, and they'd all cut ties. But it later came out that plenty of those relationships extended well into recent times. And more every day, everyone's wondering what the story is with old Donnie. Because Trump is literally burning his legacy to the ground to cover this up. He's burning the entire MAGA movement to the ground to protect Epstein and the whole network that he represented. Because I think Trump is sorely mistaken if he thinks that MAGA is ready to pretend like we didn't learn that we're being ruled by a bunch of pedophiles. We are paying taxes to pedophiles. This isn't the kind of thing that goes away. And the fact that Trump is now apparently all in on Operation Cover-Up, he's looking more and more complicit by the day. So, the new talking point being parroted by all the assets and suckers on X and in the media is, why do you even still care about Epstein? Why are you even talking about Epstein? I mean, who really cares anymore anyways? Which is pathetic. It's coming out that our government is run by pedophiles and their cover-up isn't going so well. And so they've resorted to just gaslighting the American people that it's not even a big deal. And no one even cares about it anymore. Right? I'm sure it's totally unconnected that there's an Israeli spy ring so powerful that they got to at least one former president of the United States, and now they have the current president of the United States going along with the cover-up, and they announced all of this the day before Benjamin Netanyahu visited D.C. for the third time this year. You live in an occupied nation, folks. It's no coincidence that we have the world's largest blackmail ring being run by Israel, and we are passing speech laws to stop people from criticizing the government of Israel, not our own. We have a massive unregistered lobby in our government working on behalf of Israel. We have dual citizens with Israel peppered all throughout our government. We give more money and military aid to Israel than to any other nation. Even when Israel embarrasses us on the world stage and goes against our president's apparent orders in war times, or peace times, just bombing people, our politicians and president go along with the cuckery, all competing for who can get Bibi's dick further down the back of their throats. It is no coincidence that for decades now, criticism of Israel has been a career-ending sin for anyone in the media or the government or finance or really any position of power at all. And of course, I'm anti-Semitic for looking at the evidence that is clear as day. Just ignore the facts and evidence that it is all laid out before you. Ignore the genocide that our tax dollars are funding. Ignore the endless streams of videos of kids buried and burned and starved to death in Gaza. Ignore that they are shooting them with sniper rifles while they're pretending to give them food. Ignore Israel's secret nuclear program. Anyone who talks about any of those things hates Jews, obviously. It should go without saying that we don't condemn the giant sex trafficking ring because it was run by Jews. We condemn it because it's a child sex trafficking ring. Maybe just don't run child sex trafficking rings. We don't speak out against Israel because they are a Jewish state. We speak out about Israel because it's a genocidal ethno-nationalist project that has become the spitting image of the, regime that it theoretically is a reaction to. When you learn about World War II as a kid, one of the enduring questions is how did they get regular Germans to go along with committing such atrocities against prisoners in the labor and concentration camps? Well, look around you. How are they getting people to go along with genocide today? How are they getting people to go on the internet and pretend like we don't care that our nation is run by pedophiles and that apparently that runs so high up that our own president, our own Department of Justice, our own elected officials, the MAGA coalition, America First, is now telling you, why would you even care? Why would it even matter if Jeffrey Epstein had our whole government blackmailed? Why would it even matter if Israel and the CIA and all these dudes were trafficking children? American children, no less. Little girls off the streets in Palm Beach, Florida. As well as little girls from all around the world. Not to mention, a lot of them were into little boys. That's no big deal, apparently. It's not America First to even talk about it. Just shut up and vote for Trump. Yeah. I didn't really have an ending plan for this, because it kind of sucks. So, I don't know. Maybe Trump's playing 574D chess, and if you want to know all about the 575th dimension of his chess moves, you can just log on to Twitter and trust that plan, because it is still going strong on there. Yeah, maybe. Maybe, but it'd be really nice if he could take Bibi's dick out of his mouth for long enough to acknowledge a few of the promises that he made on his way into office. Maybe just one of them. Maybe like any of them. Because unless we get some of that, it pretty much just looks like we're all paying taxes to pedophiles.
That would be enough to collapse the current paradigm and change the whole planet.
Well, that's our show for today. Sorry for ending on such a downer. Thanks for liking the video, sharing the video. I really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. We're going to hit 1 million this year. I just know it. It's going to happen. I'm hyped on it. I'm really excited for you guys all moving over here to YouTube with me, because here on YouTube, I can do way longer dives, way deeper information. I don't get distracted by having fights with retards on X that tell us that we don't care about Epstein, stuff like that. It's just a way more focused environment over here where we can actually learn things. So thanks for sharing. If you want to support me, go to cancelingandcarol.com and buy some merch, buy some greens. Really appreciate that. It all helps me out. It's all created by a founder-owned business here in America. And I'll link all the things that I talked about in this video in the description down below. Other than that, be sure to drink your water, eat some healthy food, tell someone you love them, and don't stop fucking talking about Epstein and all these pedophiles that run our government. Bye.
Conspiracy theories are dangerous.
Information is the oxygen of a democracy.
With Republicans, with progressives, with libertarians, because this is not about right and left, this is about right and wrong.
It's so sick we can't talk about it. Our security is at stake.